Hello, BookTube, and welcome to Poetry Tuesday. This is a regular feature on this channel where we look at pieces of contemporary poetry, see what we can make of them, read them, learn. I learn a lot from your comments about them. And I want to try something a little different today, as I got a book in the mail that stresses what we should never forget, which is that all poetry was once contemporary poetry. This is the first 100 years of Yale Younger Poets, edited by Carl Phillips. And this is a volume that's meant to commemorate the fact the Yale Younger Poets Prize is the oldest literary prize in the country, and this is meant to commemorate its centennial by giving you selections from all of the poets who have been honored over that century. Carl Phillips is a poet himself and has also been a judge for the Yale Younger Poets Prize for a decade. And this book takes you from the beginning all the way to the present. I thought it'd be fun to look at some of the older selections in here for a couple of Poetry Tuesdays and see what we make of them, especially by names that, I mean, the Yale Younger Poets series has people who've won it have gone on to become famous poets, many of them. But quite a few have not. Quite a few are as obscure today as they were when they won it. I thought it'd be fun to look at some of those and see what we make of their poetry. So I picked one for today. This is by a poet named Ted Olson, who was born in 1899 and died in 1981. And this is from the volumes A Stranger and Afraid, which came out in 1927. And the poem that I want to pick, and I will leave the text of it down below so you can read it yourself. Although this book is new in your bookstores, so if you're a poetry junkie and you love this sort of thing, it's been affording me many hours of enjoyable reading. So I'm actually going to do the same to you, even if you're not particularly interested in poetry. But the one that I chose from him, the book includes just a handful of poems from each poet. The one that I chose from him is called Two Unlamented, and that is TWO, the number 2 Unlamented. And again, peremptory apologies for my poetry reading voice. I know plenty of people who can do a better job than this, but you're stuck with me. So, be not afraid. There can be no ghosts here. There are no ghosts where love has never been. Lift the latch boldly, firmly, and go in. Dust will companion you, but have no fear of shadowy hands on yours, of eyes that peer shyly from long-shut casements, of the thin, far tinkle of a ghostly mandolin, chording the ghostly tunes of yesteryear. No ghosts are here. No furtive shade survives two who were dust before their years were done, too pale of blood for saintliness or sin. They lie in graves as narrow as their lives, one with the mire, who never before were one. There are no ghosts where love has never been. And I read that at first. I admit, as with most poetry, I didn't know what to make of it at all. And the only time that I ever finish a poem and really immediately know what to make of it is if it has the good sense to be about the Trojan War. But then I thought, the original tone, the opening tone, sounds quasi-encouraging. At least the narrator of the poem is encouraging the listener of the poem not to be afraid. That sounds positive. But the more I thought about the poem, the more I realized how angry it is and how much worse it would be. I mean, this is an excoriation. It's not actually an encouragement not to feel fear of ghosts. It's once you read it and think about it, you realize that in the context of the world of this poem, you would want to feel afraid because you would want ghosts to be there because you can't have ghosts without love. So here are two dead people who never experienced love even when they were alive. So there's no chance that there will be ghosts here. You don't have anything to worry about. It's weird because that note of encouragement, I think, fritters away immediately into one of scathing denunciation of the two people who are dead, and who were dead long before their bodies stopped working, who are one with the mire, who were never one with anything before. It's a brutal condemnation of those two people, that they are not ghosts, that they cannot be ghosts. And it makes me wonder who they are. And it gives me the horrifying idea. It took me a couple of readings to wonder, are they his parents? How horrifying that would be. It seems like a personal poem. It doesn't seem like it's about two strangers. How could it be? If we're about two strangers, how would an outside observer know that they'd never known love? One way or another, deeply disturbing. And that's from 1927. That's almost 100 years ago. So, I think is a testament. I don't think I know Carl Phillips I don't think I know his poetry at all. I don't think I would. But I can attest that shiver of a well-chosen poem, something where you're glad it's in here, and where, if, for instance, you've ever looked at like Collier's or Harper's from 1927, if you've ever seen a used copy or anything like that, you'll know how horrible a lot of the poetry was. Most of it was. All throughout this book, with almost no exceptions, this editor manages to pick things that actually do give me a shiver like that. Poems that are just as good now as they were when they were written. So I will leave the text of this down below. You let me know what you think of 2 Unlamented. But that is Poetry Tuesday for today. These videos are always short, and that's good because I've done a couple of long ones today, I think. But if it's all the same to you, since I live and breathe new releases, I thought we'd do a couple more from this volume, maybe more than a couple more. This is 100 years of stuff, and I find it fascinating. So maybe we'll break it up. Maybe we'll do some other poets in between. But I'd like to stick with this volume for a little while, maybe for the month of October, interspersed with other things. So I'll wrap this up. Let me know what you think. Of course, I am as much your student as not when it comes to contemporary poetry, and I will see you soon. Thank you, Book 2.